want to um, state that, I really want to thank everyone for being here. And just a reminder, this is an open public forum that is being recorded. And by being here, you are consenting to just being part of the recording, and your insights may be used by Smart Firefighting and our sponsors. We're, of course, always make you look good. But the big thing is we just want to share the best ideas and best practices amongst everyone here, and use this as an opportunity to scale ideas around the country. So we're getting more people in here, which is great. So I'm also now just going to set the stage and share my screen really quick, followed by Captain Kirk, who will share his screen afterwards. So 1 second here. Actually, Kirk, I'm also going to make you a co-host, so then you can help me let people in. Kirk, did you get the co-host notification?
I've not seen it yet, Kevin, but happy to help when I get it. I'm glad to see Ken and Denise, some other friends joining.
Should be co-host. I'm making my fellow partner Peter Darley co-host as well. But yeah, welcome Ray, Denise, everyone. So I'm going to now share my screen, and we'll kind of kick this first forum off. And let me make this a full screen thing. But this is the first of many Smart Firefighting Roundtables that we're going to have, where today this is really meant to be an open forum to share best practices. This is not a webinar. This is not me talking to you. This is not Kirk talking to you. This is all of us talking and learning from each other. One of the first times we've ever done this before, I completely copied Joe Power's model of how he's doing with community risk reduction. And we're now doing this with a focus on innovation. For those of you that are not familiar, we started smartfirefighting.com in response to this report. This report is filled with a lot of good information about PPE, about smart apparatus, about robots, about training, about virtual reality, all the big buzzwords. So what we're trying to do is host weekly podcasts and monthly roundtables like this to pull people together to break down some of these concepts and initiatives. So what are we doing here today? This is about smart apparatus. We want this to be an open forum where we're going to go around and talk. The key questions you can always come back to are, what is smart apparatus? What are the biggest wants and needs? What are the biggest obstacles in the way? And what are the biggest opportunities in the next 1 to 3 to 5 years? We want to hear from you. We want to learn from you. So please feel free to chime in. The only rules that I have is try to keep any one response less than 3 minutes. We have a lot of people here who want to talk, maybe want to build off each other. Feel free to raise your hand virtually or physically to kind of say, hey, I want to add in. This is meant to be sort of a organized pandemonium environment. So without further ado, I want to let Captain Kirk give some of his perspective on what is smart apparatus to set the stage, and then we're gonna let it open. And I want you to keep these questions in mind because we want to hear from you. So without further ado, Kirk, let's start with you. Give us your perspective on kind of what is smart apparatus, and I know you've got some slides you want to share with us here.
Thanks so much, Kevin. And yeah, I'll run through a couple quickly now, and then I have some more later on after we've heard from the audience. So first off, I spent 30 years in the field, and about 10 years I've been into next gen technology, and just what's going on in the space. One of the teams to watch is led by Dr. Ed Chow, and I'll put this in the chat window, a link to the full deck on this. Is he's working with Department of Commerce and chiefs of police on collision avoidance. What if we had computer vision out in front of us that could tell us faster than we would know to avoid a collision? Perception, reaction, effective braking distance, total stopping distance. Sometimes about a quarter of the line of duty deaths is insufficient, actually, the roadway incident. So what would a smart command vehicle do on the way to a call? And then once we get there, there's teams like Microsoft doing some great work, also T-Mobile and others that have built some of the first smart command vehicles. What are going in them? What is coming out of them? What sort of front haul and back haul capabilities are they giving us? What sort of active digital twin capabilities could they give us? And how will that improve our situational awareness? How do we move from two-way voice to C5 ISR, or command, control, computers, cyber physical, communications, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, on the way to smart first response. And this is the last slide, and I'm going to give it up to the audience here. Is Defender AI has cameras. These are running in Boston on law enforcement vehicles that have geo-referenced. Every pixel in the image is geo-referenced. And how are these going to change our operational policies, procedures, safety and security of data as we move away from two-way voice? That's a definitive. We are moving. To the audience, what are some of your ideas or recommendations? What should we be thinking about?
And just to kind of further that, I want everyone to have the opportunity to introduce themselves. So when you talk, feel free to give a quick little 30-second, who are you? What are you about? What's your focus? I didn't necessarily do that. I kind of did at the beginning, but then my name is Kevin Sofin. I'm the business development manager of the innovation division at Darley and also the co-founder of smartfirefighting.com. So quick little intro like that. And as Kirk said, big top level stuff from obstacle avoidance, the physical truck construction itself, sensors, all that. And just to repeat, we want to know about what is smart apparatus, biggest challenges, biggest obstacles, biggest opportunities. And so go from there. So I know one gentleman in particular has to leave fairly soon. He's on a train and his phone's dying, and he's, I don't know, somewhere in maybe the Swiss Alps. But Bart, if you want to go first, and then everyone else, again, encourage you to raise your hand, chime in, and we want to hear from you. So Bart, I know you're very in tune with all things smart trucks and even the Rosenbauer electrical vehicles. So can you share some wisdom with us today?
Yeah, so my name is Bart Verleeuwen. I'm from the Amsterdam Fire Department. And the reason that I signed up for this, and I totally forgot to charge my phone during the day, so I'm at 19%. I might just make it for the whole meeting. I'm one of the key instructors on the Rosenbauer RT hybrid fire truck here in Amsterdam. We've been working with that since a year and a half. We got it as a pre-production model, so we knew it as a prototype with all prototype-ish issues, and introduced it like that to our teams. And in the process, together with the hard work from Rosenbauer, we came to a point that we have been using it actively since I think February, 20th February, got some upgrades along the way. So we've run about 300 incidents with it right now. And we're happy with it. We didn't have the issue that Los Angeles had with the blown up tank. I have no clue what happened there. Yeah, at first it's a fire truck. That's how we introduced it, but slowly but steadily we start to recognize it's a computer that can fight fires and gives us operational perspective we haven't looked at before in a smart fire truck, because everything is electrically operated, mechanically steered by electronics. We now looking at the option that one of our quick deployment hoses on the side of the truck, as soon as the parking brakes are activated, an electrical button on the side of the truck will actually engage the pump, open up the tank, and you'll have water within 5 seconds. These kind of things are now possible with most traditional trucks. It's all mechanically operated, so it needs human interaction to get these things going. So yeah, that's why I was interested in this talk, and I'll give it up for other people to introduce themselves. And then maybe later on, when my battery is still alive, we can talk a bit more, and people want to know more. I'm more than happy to exchange more on that apparatus.
Thanks, Bart. Me in particular, I'm interested in the whole fear of, is there too much reliance on the computer? Is there too much reliance on the technology than the human element? But that's my knee-jerk reaction to the question. But I'd like to now continue to let this open forum go from the questions. Anyone else want to take the conch and be kind of the next one to give any insights, or I'll be happy to kind of voluntold people. Ray?
I'll jump in. Hi, it's Ray Ivy. I'm over at TEEX at the Testing Innovation Center doing evals testing. Just came across this morning. DHS sent out a science and technology letter talking about mapped in response that they're collaborating with and funding. And it's pretty interesting. They're doing 3D modeling of interiors of buildings and things like that, to where it would be available in the cloud as first responders are en route or on station. they could have these 3D models of the buildings and the floors, the elevators, everything they would need. And it would all be cloud-based. So if y'all need that, I can send it around a few times, but it's in the DHS Science and Technology. I think it has a lot of promise there. They're probably populating the database now, and I'm not sure exactly how it's getting populated, but it sounds like a good idea.
Hey, Kevin, I'm going to jump on that if I may. Ray, thanks very much for bringing that to everybody's attention. I actually just posted on that this morning. There's I put two things in the chat there. One is the NASA slide deck from Dr. Chow on the work with Department of Commerce. And then from the CEO of Mapped In was the news about DHS. And what they do is convert, and I've been talking to the team for a couple of years now, convert traditional paper drawings into digital format. So yeah, instead of a binder for our high life hazards, we have a digital asset. And what about when we can bring that over our eye and heads up displays? What all these things are, all the components are possible today. And thanks for being here to help build the, identify the components and build the roadmap forward. Chief Ralston, did you come on to have a comment there?
I'll just make a quick introduction. Dale Rolfson, I've been a firefighter in Indianapolis for 34 years and have managed IT. I'm the CTO for Indianapolis Fire Department. Been doing that for the last 10 years. I've been involved in bringing certain different IT solutions to public safety over the last 25 years or so in Indianapolis area. And I'm involved pretty heavily in the first challenge.
And Chief, building on that, when you see those questions of what is a smart apparatus and kind of what are the wants and needs, what are your opinions on those questions?
Well, I agree with some of your comments. The tools that we get in technology need to be easy to use for the firefighters. A lot of our firefighters are, I guess their skill set is pretty small when it comes to computers. Now, obviously the younger generation is smarter, and but you get to firefighters my age, and most of them have very little to no computer experience. And when we tell them that they got to put a report in a computer, they're very intimidated by that. So the tools need to be very easy for them to use. Any technologies for, say, 3D tracking of firefighters or any of those kind of tools, it's got to be very simple. One button or two buttons to push and no extra equipment to deploy. Anything that takes away from their mission to save lives and property is probably a no-go, in my opinion.
I feel like we see that a lot of times in technology where it seems great on paper, but it ends up creating more challenges and nuances, nuisances.
Sure.
So, couldn't agree more. It's supposed to be simple and help. Bart, I see you got your hand raised. You wanted to add some other context there?
Yeah, so I have to admit, I sort of going in a black hole with stellar coverage here, so I might actually pop out anytime soon, but we'll see how that goes. I fully agree with what was said. And to that, you were asking a bit about the RT. I think that the way we configure the RT for the Amsterdam Fire Department, it's just a fire truck. And that was one of the first comments we got from the crew at my station, that they looked around and was like, oh, it's actually just a fire truck. It got some smart capabilities, but under all circumstances so far, it's operating as just a fire truck. So people can stick to what they know. Those stuff is placed differently, but the smart stuff is a choice, not per se a enforced new reality, and that really improved the acceptance of the truck. And now slowly but certainly the firefighters working with it start asking for the upgraded capabilities instead of pushing it down their throat and they coming back with resistance. So that was a deliberate choice we made when introducing this kind of technology in the fire department.
That seems to be an effective way to do it, as opposed to an authoritarian, this is what you must do. It's still kind of fitting within the same guidelines and now offering some of these other features. So Thanks, Bart, for that context. Dale, anything else you wanted to add there, or would pass it around to anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to pass it around.
All
Get
right.
other perspectives.
Well, I see Paul or Ken. Ken, you just came off mute, so I'm going to throw it to you.
Okay.
Comments on everything you've heard, or any questions that you have about the future or wants and needs of smart apparatus?
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Ken Willett, Executive Director of the North American Fire Training Directors. Our members are the state and provincial level training directors in the US and Canada. Collectively, they train over 900,000 firefighters annually. Two thoughts on smart technology relative to apparatus. The first, I haven't heard or seen, and I'd like to put it out there for future consideration, how will smart technology allow apparatus to become a better training tool? If you think about the traditional approach to fire apparatus training in recruit school, it takes probably considerable hours of manipulating the pump control with the diesel engine running, generating noise, creating a disturbance for the educational environment, as well as, you could argue, polluting the environment because the truck is idling. So as we see the advance of the electrically driven fire apparatus, is there an opportunity to look at it as a training model? And how can we utilize the smart technologies that are now coming to the industry to craft a piece of apparatus that's really a training tool and has all of the integration of a fire apparatus, but could focus on whether it's pump, the fire pump panel or the integrated technologies in the cab? I think that's going to be important and underscores that training at the recruit and the basic firefighter level is going to be fundamental to get the industry to accept the integration of smart technologies into these everyday appliances. The second observation I would add is for the manufacturers of the smart integrated apparatus, how are you going to train the departments that are receiving it? Because right now it's being done by the apparatus manufacturer at the department level. At some point, it's going to transition into the state and provincial academy level. And how can we have a seamless transition of that skill set and the tools and the knowledge necessary to be effective in that? So those are my two comments.
All great points, Ken. I'm going to jump right in and say thank you for being on the call. What an honor. And I went ahead and put your LinkedIn profile in the chat. Ken's a rock star. We started talking about augmented reality fully 5 years ago at the Canadian Department of Defense on a Department of Homeland Security invitation. On your concept for training, what a great idea to me. And I'm going to poke at Darley a little bit here. And I've said the same to Oshkosh, Pierce, and I haven't to Maguros and Rosenbauer and some of the others, but I'm happy to, is how about assisting by the training by providing a digital twin of the apparatus, right? So that's the first part, is we should have synthetic digital twin of whatever you roll out the door, at least in that, for that organization, right? Each time I remember all those times that I thought this was a complicated pump panel. And then we got a new rig and a new rig and a new rig. And by the time I retired, I was like, oh my gosh, this is even more complicated than I could have imagined it would be by now. So let's look at those digital twins of that, because they're designed in some sort of 3D computer aided design format, and then have that be part of the, the education for as they become digitally intelligent, AI enabled, IoT enabled, 5G, edge compute, quantum compute at the edge. All of this, we're going to need to train in some ways in advance and remotely in a 3D VR environment. It seems a lot a conducive avenue. Thanks for your comments, Ken.
And to follow up on that, Kirk, I was talking just yesterday, we did a focus group for our AFG project on immersive learning, had a representative of Massport, which is the crash rescue department at Boston Logan International Airport. And he shared that Rosenbauer, when they delivered their more recent ARF apparatus, provided a digital simulator in advance of the apparatus to begin the training. So to your point, Kirk, I think it's out there, but it would be great if it's an industry standard, if you will, and it's part of the accepted contractual language and not left to an individual department and sales rep to try and figure it out.
Yeah, I'll let you make the call to NFPA to start the committee on that. But
Okay.
I'm gonna put your call for on immersive learning in the chat bar.
Thank you.
Art, I saw you got your hand up again. Do you want to add anything else from what Ken and Kirk were just saying there? You're on mute.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah, I'm not muted. Yeah, there. So on the noise level, when we started training with the Rosenbauer, which is obviously electrical and virtually noiseless, we started notifying that people were less exhausted when training with the thing. So Rosenbauer claimed, I might sound like a sales agent for them. I'm not, but they claim they're going to do a 3D training and VR training for this rig. Obviously, when we got it as a pre-production model, none of that existed. Although the pump they use is a standard Rosenbauer pump. So part of our crew knew how to operate the pump, although the panel was located differently. But the lack of noise was, especially since during training, was really, really comfortable because you let the pump roll and then have conversations. Incidentally, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we had a pretty chaotic incident. I was running it as an incident commander with the electrical fire truck. And at some point, I was standing on the balcony of the second floor, and I wanted to say something to the driver to help me with something. And my first reaction, oh, it's so calm on the incident scene. And then it took me a minute or two to realize that the reason that everybody was working coordinated and calmly was because we were not having the noise of the diesel engine going over the scene. And as you know, I'm now one of the situational matters experts. I was like, oh, this is a huge influence on your situational awareness because you get so less noise on the incident scene that it really struck me. I was sort of ashamed that I never thought of that at first because I'm always conscious of situational awareness. But then at that incident scene, seeing that this fire truck was pumping water without actually making any noise, that was, to me, it amazed me, and it was like a really big plus. And obviously as well in the trainings.
Yeah, cognitive bandwidth improvement. And many people have said, well, how are we going to be able to manage smart technologies? Like I need to do my job. I don't need to be looking at a screen. It's going to be an interesting road that we're on. And to me, each fire department over a certain size should have a CTO in-house, and each incident should have a technologist on scene that's part of that, the tech SA person. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, that's actually the conference I was at today, and that's why my phone died, is dying on me. 7% left is human hybrid artificial intelligence. Like, how do you have all this smart technology integrate with human behavior? It's super fascinating industry field, which is just emerging. And I saw some fascinating things. I also saw that we have a long way to go, but I could make some really good comments there. It's like, hey, if you want to make really hybrid AI, human hybrid AI, look at the fire department. They need that. They need this cognitive unloading of information processing. But they have a very challenging environment in which they work. So I got a ton of business cards of professors and students who really want to jump on this. And I think smart technology might actually bring calmness on the fire scene as well. So while we're now looking at it's like, oh, it's going to be so much more information now with silent breaks. You should experience to understand what I've been to at that instance. Like if your rig is not making any noise at the fire scene, that's like, it was mind blowing to me how much difference that makes.
Something that you don't really think about is the noise. I know from just living in the city and some of the noises that it kind of wears and tears on you. It even adds to like stress levels. So you'd say even the quieter environment, a little bit more comfortable to train. So all really good conversation. We're already 25 minutes in, and I want to let everyone give some 2 cents and talk. So we're going to kind of do some volleyball setting over here. Anyone else want to volunteer themselves as far as smart apparatus? What does it mean to you? Challenges, opportunities? Paul Logan, you want to go, and then we'll go popcorn around from there.
Sure. Hey, my name is Paul Logan. I'm Vice President of Operations for Logan Fire Apparatus. We're a small little manufacturer here in Virginia. Spent 31 years as a career firefighter also. We've been in business 35 years, sorry. One of the things that, matter of fact, I just got done teaching some city mechanics how to work on fire trucks. One of the things with all of this technology, what we have now, and what we're trying to come up with, we cannot leave the technicians in these shops behind. We have to make sure that these technicians know how to fix these trucks, because just a basic fire truck of today, the 9 mechanics that I taught for 2 weeks are scared to death of those. Now, can you imagine bringing an all electric fire truck in there going, here, work on that? So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're going to have with anything in the future. They can't get mechanics. They can't get technicians in these shops to fix them. The dealers can't even get technicians. So when you throw this new technology in there, the virtual training and stuff, the manufacturers, we need to come up with virtual training for the technicians that are going to fix them also. The firefighters out there, we've got to come up with technology that makes their job a lot easier at a fire, because there's paramedics out there that, you know, they care about EMS and they run a fire every 2 years or every 2 months or so. So that smart technology on the pump panels is very important. But you'll probably hear me in this group talk a bunch about our technicians that are working on these trucks. We just don't have enough for those guys out there.
Yes, sometimes we overlook the sustainment of the tech and forget about the guys and gals that are fixing and making sure the technology is actually working, because it's new. There's new nuts and bolts and software. So really good point, Paul, on that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to add to that one of the leaders of the California Fire Mechanics Academy and I spoke a few months ago about, hey, will you come down and talk to them? And to me, yeah, we need to be, is there a North American Fire Mechanic Association, Paul? And if so, would you put that in the chat bar so I can ping them and say, hey, please come with us. Yeah, not only I remember somebody saying to me, you know, the fire chief's not the boss, or that is, they're the boss, but they might not be most important. I said, well, how's that? And they said, well, HR, payroll, and the shop. And so over the years, I was real careful, obviously HR and payroll, but the shop, to take care of them, to be able to take care of keeping the rubber on the road for us in the field. So good point, Paul. Thank you.
The ICHIs had an organization. I don't think it's active anymore. They had the North American Emergency Vehicle Technician Association that folded years ago. Each of the states, we don't have one in Virginia. I've tried to get one started and may have enough traction to get one now, but you got California, Colorado, Ohio, Texas, Florida, I think Wisconsin. A lot of those states have some good associations, but there's not really a national association, which is needed. And most of the fleet managers, the AHJs of the NFPA 1911 and 1901, which is not the fire chief, it's mostly the fleet managers of these cities, you know, they want these guys involved and they want the training. But we've got to come up, this industry's got to come up with how to train them.
Thanks for bringing that point up, Paul. Really important. Again, want to continue to round robin here. We got a lot of good minds and brains here I want to share from. So I'm looking at you, Kay, not Kay Senia, but Kay or Jay Watson. Do you want to jump in here with any thoughts, comments, suggestions on the topic of smart apparatus, challenges and opportunities? I have Kay and Jay Watson if you want to come in later. I'll look at you, Chief Paul Siebert, or Denise, anyone else. We're kind of just open forum here, you know, starting fresh of, again, what are the biggest challenges, opportunities? What does smart apparatus mean to you?
Yes, I'll jump in. This is Peter Darley. Boy, it's great minds here and great ideas. I've been with Darley Company, you know, working for 45 years, and we're always interested in topics like this. But I mean, the idea of a digital twin for training, be it, you know, for on the mechanical end or on the firefighting end, great idea. But we're certainly seeing more use of data, you know, to you know, to learn about which S&T is doing with 3D modeling for buildings and just knowing, you know, having that awareness before you're just getting to the scene to have to size everything up, it's huge. So I mean, one of the things that we look at is having, you know, better visibility, you know, drones and eyes in the sky and just, you know, better situational awareness. And that technology seems to be moving quickly. And I guess, you know, another big area certainly is just safety. So you know, safer driving conditions, and that, you know, that is a hazard avoidance monitor systems, and you know, it could be, hey, is my cab, is the area that firefighters are going to be in, is it clean? Awareness on that. Do I have to worry about that? But just you know, I'm learning a lot already, Kevin. So this is a good program. Like it. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Now I'll pass it to Paul Siebert. What do you want to add on? Thoughts, comments, questions, and what you just heard from Peter Darley?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Paul Siebert, I'm with Texas A&M Engineering Extension. I oversee the public sector program, which is municipal firefighter training for the state of Texas and across the nation, 72 countries around the world. So pretty extensive range of training that we have going on through TEACS. You know, when we look at smart apparatus, you know, I think a lot of the things everybody's already talked about are certainly directed at the apparatus itself and ways to improve not only the functionality of the vehicle, you know, make it safer, make it more effective, make it more efficient at what it does, but then also, you know, how to train and do that, you know, economically, you know, efficiently, environmentally. I think, as Ken mentioned, those are all great things, and it's certainly things we support and are interested in trying to utilize in our aspect. I would take it in a little bit different direction too, you know, and Kurt kind of alluded to it, in that we continue to try to push data and information out to our responders when they're away from the apparatus, which means that we have to look at those apparatus as infrastructure for our systems and using them as platforms, whether it be to enhance the communications aspect or data transfer or sensor packages or whatever other things. So fire trucks have to become more flexible in their functionality, and rather than just being big rolling water pumps, they have to, you know, be toolboxes, they have to be sensor packages, they have to be communication, you know, amplifiers and those kinds of things. And so a lot of technology companies, you know, they look at ways to get that technology out there. You know, we've all seen it with the holy grail of firefighter location services, and you know, you'll see a startup company or somebody that'll come along and try to use an apparatus as a triangulation point for identifying locations of firefighters inside of buildings. And those of us that, you know, spend a lot of years trying to figure out exactly where to put a fire truck on a really busy scene know that you don't get a lot of choice in the matter as far as, you know, being able to pinpoint or use it as a triangulation point. So, you know, there's a lot of things that come in with how we look at what our apparatus are, and when they're becoming smart, you know, it's more, I think, in my opinion, it's more than just the functionality of the truck itself and being able to, you know, do a better job of getting us to high places or delivering water or bringing tools with us and things like that. It's also starting to use those things as infrastructure nodes to help us get better data to our responders. So appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for putting this together.
Thanks, Paul. Ken, I see you got your hand up, and then I'm going to let Sam and Denise and Dave and Chris talk next. So Ken, you want to give us some context on what you just heard?
Yes, two quick things. At the very beginning, Kevin, you showed the cover of the Smart Firefighting Roadmap, which was a NIST and Fire Protection Research Foundation report. And back at that, there was a lot of conversation about a black box on the apparatus that would capture a lot of data from activities on the apparatus. And I haven't heard too much about that today. I've heard a lot about triangulation and GPS and other advanced systems, but nothing about capturing the data or the metrics of when the pump is charged, which line, what pressure, what ladder is taken, what rescue tool might be removed. Apparatus has gotten pretty specialized where they record their, store their equipment. There could be sensors put there. It creates the data point into the black box that's downloadable. It's a great metric for performance. Also, I know N4s and some of the other data reporting systems capture that to show time on task and give the citizen the true statement of what they're getting for fire protection services. And the second point, something that may be driving the move towards this more smart technology, the foam AFFF is now no longer made because of the PFAS and PFOS. And the recent research that we've been hearing, it's almost going to be a customized foam agent depending on the classification of the fuel, which means there won't be a single foam agent on a piece of apparatus. There could be a mixing tank or multiple tanks. I don't see that being a very good option for a mechanically controlled system as opposed to a digitally controlled system. So I just put that on everyone's radar as a possible driver for moving this technology faster, perhaps, in that one area.
Can I comment on that?
Please.
With like I said, I'm not a sales agent for Rosenbauer, but the Rosenbauer is a computer that can fight fires, and we get a ton of data from the Rosenbauer, and we have been able to sort of graph out really quickly battery load, pump pressure, pump running times, etc. So yes, it's an IoT on IoT device on wheels, which gives us really the capabilities of monitor how our fire operations are going. So yes, that part is definitely going. I think in the NFPA 2016 CNE, when I was doing a presentation, I already talked about the open data fire engine, something we thought of in Amsterdam, indeed, with this central communication. So a lot of the stuff I'm hearing is something that I talked about like 6 years ago, which was finally coming into fruitful, especially with the digital platform Rosenbauer is actually giving us. And that's my battery signaling, my phone is shutting off. So
Bart,
great for allowing me.
I think lesson learned is you need to talk more, because usually
Yeah.
whatever you're saying, it's on the right path.
Yeah, exactly. So great to talk to you, gentlemen. My phone is dying. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bart. All right, we're gonna keep kind of rapid fire here and moving around. We'll go Sam. I see Chris, who came up, and Dave, and Denise. So Sam, welcome. Give us an introduction and some of your thoughts and context and everything here.
Yeah, hi. This is great to be here. Much respect to everyone in the room. I was keen to understand, I guess wanted to kind of get some people's opinions on, one, the question of, is there a directory of what fire service is on what, like e-com service? Because there's several per city where I'm from in Vancouver. And so I'm interested to know, because I'm working with large enterprises trying to make better risk data available to everyone across an organization, and first responders are a category within that. And so wondering, one thing I hear a lot is like the pre-incident folders are crap. And so being able to connect and send better data ahead, like to a smart apparatus or to just like I see iPads and different systems in use. Where is there a registry of all those e-com services? And like, is there, I'd love to hear if there's like what your experience is with pre-incident data, and like how maybe 3D mapping and things like that. Like what I'm doing is using digital twins to make risk reduction data into micro learning games for different types of occupants. And so wanting to be able to send the right pre-visualization data to first responders, what would be like your dream pre-incident plan, and how would you receive it?
Sam, you may be smarter than some of the rest of us here, but it's always good to talk to you. Thanks for being on the call. I'm going to try and find some stuff to put in the chat window. As you know, the challenge in America, we have 35,000 plus fire departments and untold systems to run them. So having one, that's hard to do. I'll put some things in the chat window that have groups of them, but everything from basic computer-aided dispatch over two-way voice to push-to-talk capabilities as we move into what you're building for us. Oh, I'd love to just give you the data set for it. I can send you more material offline, but nobody that I know of has it all in one place.
So there's no like, so not even the NFPA or anybody that like audits these things has created a master database of who's
Ken?
what in what district?
Kirk, did you pitch that over to me by chance?
Yeah, Ken, you're the
Yeah, the
closest thing
answer
to
is no.
NFPA that I see on the call.
NFPA
That's
does,
interesting.
does not have a database like that.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on what Sam brought up in regards to the e-com services, what would be the ideal experience for pre-incident data and how that ties into the smart truck? There's some other chiefs and firefighters on the call here. Any other context?
And I'm going to put R2 Network in, and FirstNet just launched their, qualified apps, and I'll put some stuff in there, Sam, but no one place that I know of. Anyone?
What agency would you see as being the one who would want that kind of data or be interested in getting that kind of data? Like
They all should be.
Yeah.
6,000 people die an hour on the planet, 7,000 a day in America. They should all be interested because two-way voice is a little bit old school.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and just being able to, like, when we talk about taking a more like countrywide response sort of accountability, like holding people accountable in these kinds of situations where there's like communication breakdowns across all types of first response, right? Obviously the fire tends to be the most like technically and scientifically engaged. And so that's why it's always a great place to start in solving these problems. It's like much respect to you guys are always on the innovative edge of responding to all sorts of disasters, not just fire. You guys really go outside of your umbrella and it's very admirable. So it's like great to get, I'd love to hear your dream visions if you want to share them, but would also love to know who you think is responsible, because it would be great for me to start to understand that and have an impact there.
Also could be another roundtable just on itself of some of the stuff Sam brought up. So I think that's important context. I see some heads nodding, which is good. So park those questions in the back of your brain, because I'm actively taking notes here right now. And I just want everyone else to know too that not only am I taking notes, Kirk is putting a lot of links in the chat. So continue to use the chat as a forum to share best practices, share links. We're going to do a recap of this after the fact, but we're now 44 minutes in. I don't want to go too much over the hour, but there are a few people who still haven't talked, and that's fine. You do not by any means need to have any conversations here. But I'd like to just continue to let anyone else share their thoughts or opinions on what we're here talking about today. At least the general macro umbrella is smart apparatus, challenges, opportunities, wants, needs. So I'm looking at you, Dave, Chris, Dave Donahue, Kay, Jay Watson, Deborah, Alex, Paul, Houston. Floor is open right now. Chris, as you came off mute, so floor is yours. Give us some hot takes. What are you thinking right now?
Yeah, so this is Chris Gantz with JHB Group. One of the things that's interesting about this, the discussion of smart firefighting and smart apparatus is there's beyond a cool factor, but we also, and I see a usability, right, in terms of the industry as a whole, we're always hungry for innovation. The one thing that I keep, as we talk about, just like with, I know Paul was bringing up like the techs and stuff like that, right? Just having your technicians be familiarized with what's existing versus new technology. My question and concern is how do you piecemeal this? Because, right, it's the old sales approaches. If you try to sell a giant fire apparatus that is, only LA City could purchase, right? How do you get the thought process of the fire service to embrace that technology, those aspects of technology in, I guess, lesser ways, right? Where it's incremental. And I know we're doing that now with training assets and different technology, but I guess that's one of my biggest questions to the group is, you can't throw an electric vehicle out there for fire apparatus and have 35,000 departments, jump on it, right? It's just not feasible when there's probably half the departments are still rocking their their, 1989 open cab as their reserve rig, probably, as Kirk's chuckling, but it's true. So that's where it's, the question goes back to is how do we incorporate elements of the smart apparatus into current rigs or current designs, and even not if it's innovation, but it's also more ergonomics, and it's more, I say this, it's work comp prevention stuff, it's the back saver stuff, it's the clean cab stuff, and how do we implement those increments until we get to the, where we're at a point where an electric or smart, fire apparatus is feasible for, I say this, more than 10 departments in the country, right? From a cost standpoint, and no one's going to replace their whole rig with electric, in the next couple decades. It's just not feasible. So it's not to downplay it. It's just the reality of the fire service is we don't really embrace new very often, and we embrace tradition. But I think there's so much positive here. It's like, again, how do you try to find some of the key elements to bring forth to the masses?
Such good points, Chris. Thank you for that. And it's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about that. One, do you have the Autonomy Institute screen here? Did I show the right one?
Yes.
Okay, great. We are in a bit of a like it or not. Here it comes, ready or not, sort of like hide and seek. One of the teams I'll put in the chat too that I'm following is Autonomy Institute, who has very poignantly said, yeah, it's a challenge for public safety, just like moving from buckets to fire hose, just like moving from from speaking trumpets, from yelling through a metal bugle into a digitized voice, two-way voice. It's going to be a challenge to move to what's next. The thing is, they're building it. They're building with many partners, and some key partners that if you go to their website, you'll see an active digital twin. As railways in the 80s were the way to get things done in America, and highways in the 50s and 60s were the infrastructure we needed, they're building out live 3D capable 5G edge compute capabilities, and we can either connect to it or not, but I'd say let's. And then I'm going to carry on that just a little bit more and say with a little bit more screen share and try and get a couple more folks to join the dialogue and consider what are those things that we might want to consider. If you want to stay with two-way voice, I suppose if you're the fire chief or the city council, the board of directors, that's fine. But I'll tell you, my family said, if you call a Mayday and they don't know where you are, I'm going to have something to say, right? If I don't come out of the fire. So I put the badge down 2 years ago. Now I'm a civilian, but what are teams doing for tracking, and how will we integrate it? San Antonio Fire Department with a team out of the UK are using computer vision, where people may place a call and it can tell their pulse rate before the rig's even gotten out of the barn. And so these things are available now. But 2 years ago, before I retired, Blue Forest lent us licenses, and Zebra gave us hardened phones that now are push to talk capable. And I was tracking our personnel. Now Blue Forest, along with Samsung and T-Mobile, are right. They have common operating pictures. We could have our biometrics and all the rest of it. And Chief Ralston mentioned the first challenge, right? There's $5 million on the table. It's going into phase 3 now to know where our people are, not just in 2D, like Uber knows where we are. Facebook, Google, Amazon, all the big enterprise teams are doing this already while we're still chatting about it. And I just had a call with the US rep for Leica Geosystems. They're doing live 3D surveillance camera operations that have thermal capabilities. So while we're talking about these little incremental movements, and it's going to be hard, somebody in a security center is going to be watching our firefighters walk around a grass fire next to the railroad tracks, communicating in 2D when they could be doing that. Just a couple more things to say, okay, what is next? What about when we roll up, and whether it's mapped in data, Esri data, Cesium, Autodesk, Bentley systems, I don't care. Fire departments have the capability today to have 3D models when they arrive. Our friends at HHP Berlin, who Kevin will be with next week at Intershoots, and please go to Hall 16 to see the Hall of Digitization Innovation over there. What if you could run a smart fire propagation model on your phone in real time, because you had the 3D data, you had smart buildings, say Honeywell and Rapid SOS now have 450 million connected devices, 10 million connected buildings. These are all the component ingredients that we need to do intelligent stuff with robots, with a tactical vehicle platform, with capabilities that I've imagined a few of, not enough of. And while I don't have the answers to bring it all together, I'm grateful for having folks like you, Chris, and some of the others that can help us solve some of these gaps.
Great context there, Kirk. And I want everyone to can just let that sink in and build off of it. And still, with the amount of time we have left, want to then now let people speak. So Denise, I see you came on camera. So I'm throwing it to you. What do you got here?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Kevin Kirk, first of all, thanks for putting this together. I think one of the most important parts of facilitating innovation is bringing people to the table. One of the things that really resonated, I try not to speak too much. I don't have much to say about smart apparatus, but some of the things that really resonated with me is the fact that we need the apparatus to be part of the infrastructure. So how does, as we have more autonomous systems, as we can pre-deploy sensors into locations, how do we get all that information coming back? As we have companies developing different technologies that provide different capabilities, how do we get everything coming to one uniform location so that incident command isn't looking at 5 different screens with information coming in 3 different directions and trying to put everything all together? And so this idea of a common operating picture, technology talking to one another, bringing a lot of data coming in and being able to present it in a way that makes sense. So showing the right data to the right people at the right time so that they can make a decision is what's important. And I think part of that is bringing people together and facilitating that discussion on what integration looks like, having those discussions, that dialogue. And so I really appreciate you guys creating this forum and that space for us to do that.
Love it. And what's the API? Where's the SDK? Do you have a GitHub? Can we check on our interoperability? And what is the interoperability standard? What should we expect to be able to be ingested on Azure, AWS, Google, whatever it is? It has to be agnostic and ubiquitous. And one of your colleagues, Ritwick, working on wildfire and AI at UC Berkeley, is all about, hey, we've got to open source as much as we can so that we can get these component parts working together, because then they're just so much more valuable. Excellent comments, Denise. Thanks.
Yeah, you hear that a lot of, you've got 10 platforms with 10 different data streams coming in. Again, the point of this technology is to make first responders better, faster, smarter, safer, not to overload us. So that right data at the right place, the right time is critically important. So thanks for that. Paul Kustin, so you came on. You want to give us some context on what you're feeling on everything you've heard here?
Yeah, sure. And Denise, thanks for the alley-oop there. I really think we've seen a lot of really great innovation in the fire space recently, but there still needs to be that central operating platform that consolidates all the data. Similar to what Microsoft did for computers a couple decades ago, there needs to be someone that is able to provide that incident commander with a single dashboard. So the team at Smart Firefighting, part of the first challenge, is a bunch of innovators, both small companies and big companies, that have all come together to try to consolidate not only where is the firefighter, but how that firefighter is doing. And to think that any single company is going to be able to do that by themselves is a bit naive. We're truly going to have to all work together, share APIs, share best learnings, share even simple things like what materials and plastics are you using to survive the type of environments that these sensors are going to be exposed to? Those are the types of things that here at Ascent we're really focused in on, and we're excited to be part of the narrative and part of the dialogue of making the fire scene a little bit safer for those firefighters.
Thanks, Paul. Alex, your partner in crime, did you want to add anything else to that?
Nothing really meaningful. Paul summed it up well. I just want to say this has been incredible, and just hearing some of the perspectives on what Apparatus can do, and how they can make the fire scene safer, and especially being tools for training, I found incredibly insightful. I forget exactly who was it that said it, but they need to be more than a tool to carry a bunch of water and spray it quickly. It needs to be the hub. It needs to be a sensor payload. It needs to be a training tool. It's incredible.
Well said. Yeah, it's not just a moving truck with water and to put wet stuff on the red stuff. It needs to be much more than that. So this is great. Jay Watson, I don't know your first name, but I would love if you wanted to chime in here with some thoughts and context and tell us who you are.
So I was kind of riding in the vehicle when you called on me earlier. I had my camera going, but I couldn't.
Hey, that is priority one. So thank you for doing that.
Okay. I'm Jeff Watson. I'm with Greenville City Fire Department in South Carolina. I'm with the Community Risk Reduction Department in Fire Marshal's office. So I'm listening. As I listen to y'all, a lot of this stuff is really new and good stuff for us. It's different from what I'm involved with. And when you're asking about smart trucks, my mind goes to assisting the drivers and the officers in those trucks, as well as, updated GPS system to get you there. And then if there's some way to find a way to integrate the pump panel to officer or driver friendly, it'd be something that I would be interested in finding out for our department.
Kirk, did you want to add any context on his comment?
Well, thank you very much. Do you know the Smart Firefighting website, Kevin, that runs? Because there's a lot there. I'll put that in my personal website in there, because there's folks doing some good work on immersive learning that's associated with the pump panel. More needs to be done, sir. But the other thing that while you were chatting, to me, it's about bringing it all together. It needs to be the caller, the dispatcher, the driver, operator, command vehicle, and the fact that we're going to make these these smart SUVs, they help be a node. And if there's bad propagation, maybe at least they can communicate with the robots that are close on scene. But the biggest one for me is, how do we get it to the citizens and back to the responders? Because the citizens text their parents and other family members to say goodbye. Active shooter, earthquake, flood, fire, collapse, man-made or nature-made, they say goodbye by text. Not that it's a difficult challenge to get them directly connected to the person that might be just on the other side of that wall that would really love to cut a hole, because they've got 3 or 5 minutes in a protected space in a warehouse, but they're not connected. And I think Rapid SOS is doing some of the best work in bridging those. So yes, for everybody, all those who swore there and raised their right hand, and then all those, the 300 million Americans that those people serve, connecting the dots. I'll put a couple things in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk and Jeff, for that. So we're at the top of the hour, but I want to give at least a couple more minutes to the other Chris and Deborah Harrison, if you wanted to say anything or bring up any comments. We also have Darla's newest intern, Naya Patel, here. So if you wanted to say anything, it's welcome. So Chris or Deborah, did you have anything you wanted to add on here?
Good, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Deborah, for being here. Chris, any other thoughts, comments from you? That's okay. And Naya, I'm putting you in the spot. We haven't even met yet. But what have you thought of the conversation here today? This is Naya's first day in the job as an intern at Darley for the summer. Any feedback or thoughts from you, Naya?
No, I'm just happy to be here and listening in.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. Well, to Ken, Denise, Chris, Paul, Sam, Paul, Alex, Ray, Dale, Jeff, and Kirk, I think we could keep going around for quite some time, but I'll leave kind of a final 3 minutes of anyone want to leave any kind of final, this is on my mind, or a mic drop or call to action. You know, I'll leave it to like kind of like 30 seconds or less. It's kind of a final opportunity to say anything. Dale or Ray, I'm looking at you two first. Give us with something to think about as we leave for the call today.
I'd just like to say that I've heard a lot of great content and ideas from people on this call today. And one thing to keep in mind that the firefighters that are riding on the apparatus, each one of them has a different role. The fire officer is going to want to see different information than from what the engineer running the pump panel and driving wants, as versus to the backsteppers and the information that they need. And then all of that information then can be fed to what the battalion chief or the fire chief wants to see, or the fire and life safety division. So yes, we need all of this information, but we kind of need tabs for each area of the fire service, and so can specifically fit the needs of that particular position. That's just my thought.
Well said. Thanks, Dale. Ray, over to you.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of folks talking to us about VR training. So we're looking at multiple systems right now. That seems to be going down the pathway. It's not going to substitute for hands-on, obviously, although I do think it's gotten a lot better to where the hybrid, where it's both visual and hands-on, seems to be the pathway that seems to be the most useful. But it is a good start. The one thing that's coming out of that also is for recruiting. You know, we all think about training, but recruiting's a real problem out there for firefighting schools, firefighting departments, everything else. And these VR systems can be dual use, both for training and for recruiting. And that's something that we didn't even think about before.
Thanks, Ray. So just a couple, maybe 2-3 minutes more, kind of final mic drop comments. Looking at you, Ken, Paul, Sam, the other Paul, kind of open chance of 30 seconds of something for us to think about before our next roundtable. Ken?
Yeah, thanks. Great conversation. And I always come back to the training piece, and we can have the best technology, the best tools, but we've always got to reverse engineer so that we've got the training and the support for the responders to be able to utilize the tools and the technology in the manner they're designed for the expected outcomes.
Thanks, Ken. Sam, Denise, Paul, or Chris, anything else, kind of final thoughts from you guys? If not, totally okay.
I mean, I'll just say, like, I'm not totally familiar with the apparatus or anything, but I do know training. And I think that, just to the previous point, having something that meets the people where they are, the firefighters where they are, comfortable, and a device that they already use, like a lot of stuff, how you deliver that training is always great, especially if there is immersive training, to be able to break that into also 2D training. Or place-based training with QR codes on the apparatus. So it's easy to kind of do those checks in a refreshable way, but also get the data at an individual level that training's happening on a regular basis. I'd love, if anyone's interested in discussing things like that, please reach out to me. Because I think there's a lot that we can explore there, just on the basis of best change management practices, the stuff that people don't really like to think about, but kind of is the make or break of if these things are adopted and used well, is how familiar people get, how quickly it becomes instinct. So I always love discussing those training scenarios.
Sam, I think
based in-
you and Ken Willett need to have a chat amongst other people, Sam with Teeks and anyone else that's interested. So I put Sam's company in the chat, and as well as there's a lot of info and LinkedIn profiles here that we'll do a recap on afterwards for everyone that attended. So all the links are made available. Paul, Logan, Chris, Denise, any kind of final 30 seconds mic drop from you before we close out here?
Kevin, I'm going to ask for just a second too, but go ahead, Paul.
Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest things I always saw in the fire service was the different platforms. You got this, you got a computer over here. I like the idea of bringing everything under one platform. I think Paul talked about like Microsoft did. The one thing that we have to pay attention to is what Motorola did to our communication systems in the fire service. They become a one-stop shop, and the only place you can buy the stuff is from them, and it's expensive. I mean, the radio system in the city of Virginia Beach that I worked in, the last update we did was $47 million. We've got to watch having a single platform and making it not cost effective is what virtually what Motorola did, but now they got you every time they do it. But anyway, I like the single platform because it was a pain just looking everywhere for everything. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate being invited to this, and it was a great forum.
Thanks, Paul, Logan. Now on to Paul Kustin.
Yeah, and Paul, I 100% agree, right? The moment that we consolidate to a single platform, I think the only way in which we can say hyper competitive is to recognize that there's other technology leaders in the space. So similar to how Microsoft doesn't charge you an arm and a leg to be supportive, I think any solution that will combine all of the technology on that fire scene needs to almost step out of the way and allow for those technologies to really shine and be the most useful. So my only point would be that, you know, the apparatus is one piece of a bigger puzzle, which is providing that incident commander with the insight that they need to make informed decisions. So we're going to keep plugging away at it at Ascent. And if you guys are interested in learning more about the platform or potentially joining it, definitely reach out.
Thanks, Paul. And now I'll pass it to Kirk to give his final comments. Then I will go, and if anyone else between Kirk and myself wants to say a final thing, we'll be done here in 2-3 minutes, and then we'll send out an email recap for the next one. So, Captain Kirk, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much for putting it together, Kevin, and for everybody that joined us and contributed. It's all about the community, just like the apparatus is merely one component of a greater smart community risk reduction ecosystem. Each of you are an important component to bring to the table. Thanks for being here. Last thing I just wanted to mention, what I put in the chat, is that the International Association of Fire Chiefs has a technology council. They also have their first ever technology summit international coming up in October in Texas. I'd recommend having a look at that. There'll be a couple key speakers, and they even invited me, but that'll be a good thing. And if anybody's going to go to Intershoots or have friends there, Hall 16, and then Kevin, are you in Hall 27 at Intershoots next week? Because they can get some hands-on VR fun out there.
Yeah, I should know this off the top of my head, but if you're going to be interested, send me a note.
Thank you.
And the final things from me, I just want to say thank you, gratitude. I love hosting these kind of forums to bring people together, to bring people from around the country real time to talk about challenges and opportunities in the fire service. This is one of many topics. We hope to do some on immersive learning, robotics, some other topics from smart PPE, all the like. So feel free to reach out to me, Kevin Sofin at darla.com, reach out at smartfirefighting.com, the website, and keep doing what you're doing. We need innovators, trailblazers, people that don't think inside the box, they live outside the box. So keep doing that. Look for a follow-up email from us. And if you got anything, hit me up. Take care. And I hope you all have a great rest of today's Wednesday, right? Yeah. So have a great rest of your Wednesday and a great week ahead. So until next time, take care, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin and Kirk. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you, everyone. Bye. Thanks for this.
Bye.